A dermatologist was asked on record what she thinks about eye creams. She has been practicing for 18 years, treated thousands of patients, and said this: "The most expensive eye cream in the world contains nothing your regular moisturizer doesn't already have." The eye cream industry generates billions of dollars every year selling a product category built on a distinction that does not exist in the skin. Yes, the skin around the eye has specific characteristics. It is thinner, has fewer oil glands, and moves constantly. But none of these require a completely separate product with a completely separate price tag. They just require gentleness, the right active ingredients, and consistent daily use. The industry wasn't created for a clinical need. It was created because cosmetic brands realized consumers would pay a premium for a smaller jar. Today, we expose 3 eye creams charging between $80 and $340 per ounce for a category that science says shouldn't exist. Stay until the end, because I will reveal what dermatologists actually recommend instead, and give you a replacement routine that costs under $20 but outperforms most of what sits behind the glass. Counter, the skin around the eye is genuinely different from the skin on the rest of the face in a few measurable ways. It is thinner, approximately 0.5 millimeters compared to 2 millimeters elsewhere on the face. It has fewer oil-producing glands, which makes it more prone to dryness. It is subject to constant movement. Blinking alone moves the eye area muscles thousands of times per day, which accelerates the formation of expression lines. And the lymphatic drainage in this area is less efficient, which is why fluid accumulates there overnight and produces the puffiness many people wake up with. These are real differences. They are also differences that a well-formulated facial moisturizer with the right active ingredients addresses completely. The thinner skin requires gentler formulation. No harsh fragrance, no high-concentration acids. A good fragrance-free moisturizer meets that requirement. The dryness requires occlusive and humectant ingredients: petrolatum, glycerin, ceramides. Any barrier repair moisturizer contains these. The expression lines require collagen-supporting actives: retinol, peptides, vitamin C, all of which are present in the products this channel has already covered. The puffiness requires either caffeine, which constricts blood vessels and temporarily reduces fluid, or simply time and drainage. There is no published, independent clinical evidence showing that any ingredient works better when applied to the eye area in a separate eye cream formulation, compared to applying the same ingredient in a well-formulated facial moisturizer. Dermatologists at major academic medical centers have stated this on record repeatedly. The thinner skin of the eye area actually absorbs ingredients more readily than thicker facial skin, meaning the active ingredients in your regular moisturizer reach the eye area skin more easily, not less. The clinical case for eye cream as a separate necessary category does not exist. The financial case for it, higher price per ounce in a smaller jar with specialized positioning, is extremely strong. That is why it exists. Let's look at the actual biology. When dermatologists acknowledge that the eye area is different, they are talking about measurable facts. For instance, the skin there is approximately 0.5 millimeters thick, compared to 2 millimeters elsewhere on the face. It lacks sufficient oil-producing glands, making it highly prone to dryness. Blinking alone moves these muscles thousands of times a day, accelerating expression lines. Furthermore, lymphatic drainage here is notoriously inefficient, which is exactly why fluid accumulates overnight, causing that morning puffiness. These are genuine structural differences. However, the industry's solution, a tiny, expensive jar, is the wrong answer to a real problem. A well-formulated facial moisturizer equipped with the right active ingredients addresses every single one of these issues. Think about it. The thinner skin simply requires a gentler formulation, without harsh fragrances or high-concentration acids. A quality fragrance-free face cream already does that. The dryness requires occlusives and humectants like petrolatum, glycerin, and ceramides. You'll find these in any good barrier repair moisturizer. What about expression lines? They need collagen-supporting actives such as retinol, peptides, or vitamin C, ingredients we regularly discuss on this channel for your entire face. And that morning puffiness? It requires either caffeine to constrict blood vessels, or simply gravity and a little bit of time. In fact, there is no published, independent clinical evidence showing that an active ingredient magically works better just because it's labeled as an eye cream. Dermatologists at major academic medical centers have confirmed this repeatedly. Ironically, because the skin around your eyes is thinner, it actually absorbs ingredients more readily than the rest of your face. This means the active ingredients in your standard moisturizer reach the eye area more efficiently, not less. let's look at the first product we promised to expose. And it's the heavy hitter, Mer Eye Concentrate. It sells for approximately $340 per ounce, making it one of the most expensive skincare products available in any category, not just eye care. The brand's positioning relies heavily on the same mythology that drives their flagship moisturizer, the legendary miracle broth, the kelp fermentation story, and the illusion that this tiny jar represents decades of marine biology expertise. At $340 an ounce, you expect to be purchasing something categorically different from anything else on the market. But the ingredient list tells a very different story. The core components of this formula are the exact same as the broader Mer range. Their proprietary broth, mineral oil, petrolatum, and glycerin. Yes, these are effective moisturizing ingredients designed to hydrate and soften the skin. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. They are also among the least expensive raw materials in cosmetic history. Petrolatum, which is an incredibly effective skin barrier ingredient, costs less than $1 per pound. Glycerin is just as cheap. Independent analyses of their miracle broth consistently identify it as a basic blend of standard humectants and fermented kelp extract. Ask yourself this: is there any peer-reviewed, independent clinical trial testing the eye concentrate against a standard fragrance-free drugstore moisturizer? No, the brand hasn't published one because no such comparison exists outside of their own company-funded studies. In fact, Mer's parent company has even faced legal challenges related to their product claims, repeatedly responding to scientific scrutiny by emphasizing the proprietary nature of their formula rather than just showing us independent evidence. When you pay $340 for this eye cream, you aren't paying for superior dermatological science. You are paying for the brand's mythology, the heavy little jade jar, and the emotional experience of applying something that costs more than most people's weekly grocery budget. Your skin literally cannot tell the difference between a $340 per ounce emollient and a $1 per ounce emollient. And the brand's marketing relies entirely on you never finding that out. Now, let's move to the second product on our list. And this one changes the format entirely. SK-II's Patera Eye Masks. At over $90 for a box of 14 pairs, you are paying about $6.50 every single time you use one. That makes it one of the highest costs per application in the entire eye care category. The brand relies heavily on the mythology of their famous fermented yeast extract, Patera. And look, I will admit the format is appealing. Applying these patches feels luxurious. They're cooling, they create a spa-like experience, and the brand's imagery is undeniably calming. But what is actually happening beneath that patch? Here is the scientific reality check. The hydrogel patch format does have a legitimate function, but it's purely mechanical. It creates a sealed environment, what dermatologists call occlusion. By sealing the skin, you prevent moisture from evaporating and force it into the tissue. But here's the secret. Any basic occlusive material held against your skin for 20 minutes would produce that exact same short-term hydration effect. The cooling sensation? That comes from the hydrogel material, not the Patera. The temporary reduction in morning puffiness? That is simply the physical compression and cooling effect of the patch. Just like we saw with Mer, the published research for SK-II's Patera is small-scale, lacks proper comparison groups, and is heavily funded by the manufacturer itself. You absolutely do not need to spend $90 and buy into a brand's mythology to get these basic physical effects. But there is a much bigger practical concern here that the brand isn't talking about. As we established earlier, the skin around your eye is incredibly thin. When you create that sealed, occlusive environment with a patch, you intensify the delivery of everything in that formula. SK-II formulas have historically contained fragrance components that can trigger reactions in sensitive skin. The patch format concentrates that exposure directly onto your most delicate skin. For $90, you deserve to know not just what the Patera is doing, but what every other ingredient is doing when it's forced into your skin like that. And that brings us to the third and final product on our list of eye creams charging between $80 and $340 per ounce. And this one uses the most technically sophisticated marketing trick of them all. Shiseido's Benefiance Wrinkle Smoothing Eye Cream. At around $75 for just half an ounce, you're looking at approximately $147 per ounce. Unlike Mer's Ocean Mythology or SK-II's Fermentation Story, Shiseido positions this as a hardcore, science-forward product. And let's be fair, Shiseido is a legitimate research company that has produced real skincare innovations. But they use that well-earned credibility to mask the exact same evidence gap we've been talking about. The star ingredient here is retinol, Now, using retinol for eye area wrinkles is a completely legitimate clinical target. The collagen-stimulating mechanism works. But here's the massive problem. Shiseido completely fails to disclose the retinol concentration in this formula. As we established from the very beginning, the skin around your eye is genuinely thinner. Because it's thinner, it is highly sensitive to the irritation that retinol can cause. You absolutely need a lower concentration here. But because it's lower, the clinical threshold for actually getting results is much harder to hit. Transparency isn't just nice to have in this context. It is critical. Yet Shiseido leaves you in the dark. You are paying $147 an ounce for an unknown amount of retinol, applied to the one area of your face where concentration management matters the most. And here's a fun fact. Shiseido is the parent company that acquired Drunk Elephant for $845 million, a brand whose packaging and transparency failures we have already covered on this channel. This pattern of formulation sophistication, combined with a complete failure of ingredient transparency, appears consistently across their portfolio. The bottom line? There is no published independent clinical comparison showing this product works better than a standard, carefully applied retinol face moisturizer. It is the absolute clearest example of scientific positioning, without scientific accountability. So, let's recap what you just learned. La Mer charges $340 an ounce for an eye concentrate, built on the exact same miracle broth mythology as its face cream, with zero independent clinical evidence proving it does anything specific for your eyes. SK2 charges $6.50 per use for eye masks, where the cooling and hydrating effects come from the physical properties of a basic hydrogel patch, not from their expensive patera. And Shiseido charges $147 an ounce for an eye cream containing retinol at a completely undisclosed concentration, in the exact area of your face where managing that concentration matters the most. Now, here's the replacement routine I promised you. If you just want barrier repair, hydration, and gentle support, you do not need an eye cream. A standard moisturizer like CeraVe addresses all of the eye area's actual needs for just $14, using guideline-recommended ingredients. If your genuine issue is morning puffiness, The Ordinary targets that specific problem for under $10 with a fully disclosed caffeine concentration. And if you specifically need collagen stimulation for expression lines, Paula's Choice gives you retinol with a disclosed concentration, protective packaging, and a price tag that is actually proportional to what's inside the tube. That dermatologist we talked about at the beginning of the video, the one who has been practicing for 18 years and said the most expensive eye cream in the world contains nothing your regular moisturizer doesn't already have, she was absolutely right. The entire eye cream category was built for cosmetic brand profit margins, not for your skin. The ultimate replacement routine exists. You can get that basic moisturizer swap for under $20, or a completely targeted 3-step system for under $75 combined. And either way, it will drastically outperform everything sitting behind that department store glass counter. Make sure to subscribe, because next week, we are pulling back the curtain on the hyaluronic acid marketing machine and exposing why your expensive hyaluronic acid serum might actually be making your skin drier, not more hydrated.